Hey guys, it's Eric. So these videos are less tips and tricks, more just documentation. Started this build after 41 levels of grinding, pulling everything out of every dungeon I could find. So I started with 21,000 wood, 17,000 steel, a bunch of other stuff obviously. And now we're looking at the basic layout of the grotto. And this is how I had to do the entire wall piece by piece, laboriously laying down each concrete floor.
Excitement.
So this clip just shows how I created the ceiling that mirrored the stairs leading up from the grotto. So a quick diversion to creating the waterfall in the back of the grotto. Anybody who's done any building with Fallout 4 knows that one of the most difficult things is measuring and kind of getting things to line up, getting things actually where you want them to be. So that's why I'm using the cement walls, kind of line things up, get everything straight and flush. Here I am creating the rounded elements for the grotto floors. Now just snapping in the concrete floors, replacing the wooden floors that I've been using to set it up. And now dropping the whole thing into place. So after I completed the wall sections, I actually dropped the floor down so that I could work on it and do the rounded elements. So now I'm just dropping the upper portion back down onto the concrete floors. So this is how the ferns were placed in the grotto. It's a pretty straightforward rug glitch. The reason I'm toting this thing around with me is because it got so confusing inside I couldn't tell what I was working on from the inside, so I let it go right there just so it snapped back into place so that I could figure out what I was working on. Now I'm getting ready to drop this bad boy in the water. The first thing I need to do is make sure that everything is still connected so it'll go along for the ride. So I'm going to lift it up here. And not only is that floor piece with two ferns on it not connected, but there's also, it's hard to see, but there's a cycling light up there too. So both of those are going to need to be connected before I can move this thing anywhere. And now it's time to drop it in the water. Okay, circular floors. So I may make a separate video about this. It's pretty straightforward. What I want to do here is to create radii, or spokes of the wheel, at the proper angle and of the proper length. So I made a cross out of my floorboards. I replaced the centerpiece with 4 smaller pieces to give me a center point. And now I'm trying to create a 45-degree angle, which is going to run from the center point directly over the corner of that floorboard right there. So because I'm kind of a perfectionist, I'm going to futz around with it for quite a while. I'll save you 20 minutes of pain. So now that we have it laid out fairly well, now I just project this out, and that 45-degree angle from the center line over that corner is my center line. And now I can just pillar glitch this floor piece down until it's pretty much level with the other floors. So now I've got my 45-degree angles, and these floors, those are the warehouse floors, but all the wooden and concrete floors are fairly forgiving about clipping into other floor pieces, as long as they're not snapped on this or on the same level by snapping. They'll clip in pretty well, even though these ones are going to give me a little bit of trouble. I think I had to make adjustments to get that last one to go in, but if you play around with them long enough, eventually you'll be able to get them to snap in one way or the other. So now I have my 45-degree angles, so I'm just going to reproduce that process of creating the radii, and this time I'm going to go over the point where the 2 meet, where the 45 and the 90 meet. That's the 22.5. So I'm just going to do the same thing again. And I decided, instead of pillar glitching them down one at a time, I just do them all at once, which in actuality was probably about the same amount of work. So in all of my circular floors that I've built, I've never found one that I couldn't fill in one way or the other. Sometimes you just have to play around with them, but eventually, if you want to fill things in, you'll be able to do it. Just takes a little bit of persistence, and you might need to do a little bit of filling in of gaps around the edge. That's what I'm doing here. So now that I've got my circular floor laid out, I can use it as a template, which is what I did with everything else in this build, because I didn't feel like rebuilding things constantly. So I'm just using the wooden floor staircase piece, and I'm just going to use that template to build a duplicate immediately above it. And once you do that, you can grab that and move it anywhere and work on it. So here I'm using the circular template to create an oval floor. So I should point out that, this may have been obvious to everybody but me, but if you want to avoid movement in a direction that you don't wish to go, specifically if you don't want up or down movement and you don't want rotation, it's critical that you use the bumpers for movement, because now that I move this forward with the bumpers, it's on the same level, there's no rotation, and left to right movement I can deal with. And now I can just extend this floor and use the circular template above to fill it in, and I have an oval floor. So this is the wall template that I built. I created all my walls with this template. So the wooden wall piece that I'm using here has big holes in it, and I did not want holes in my walls with light showing through, so I built this template. It's got a slight offset so that the cracks in one wall piece are masked by the slats in the one either behind or in front. And that wall template is actually about 6 stories tall, so you'll see a video of that later on. And now I'm just placing it using occlusion to try to get it as parallel as possible, just seeing how the pieces behind it clip through, try to get it parallel to whatever I'm putting it up against. So this is the template that I'm using to create post sections of a specific height. I think it was Insane Checklador who originally, well, he might not have been the original person to post it, but I saw his video about creating posts of custom heights. He was using the barn posts, but the same idea still applies. So shout out to him for cluing me in to how to get this done. The posts in both the warehouse and the barn set are really kind of funky in the way they work, so you just need to play around with them. Once you figure it out, it was absolutely critical for this build because I wouldn't have been able to fit things in. Another thing I found out here is that you have to be flexible about the pillar that you're using. I don't think I got this flush here, and so I think I had to switch to another pillar, either a cement or a scaffold, to get it to go in.